continue with our topic this morning. It's introduction to ChatGPT. ChatGPT is an AI wherein the user can send a message or inquiry on a prompt, and then to the it will be sent to the large language model or LLM, and the output will be sent back to the response will be sent back to the user. So let's proceed with the continuation of our lesson. So far we have covered interacting with ChatGPT, uh, the limitations, the creation, the limits, the breaking down on a use case, the writing, the topic on writing effective prompts, then the best practices, and the prompt engineering. Okay, so then continuing. Hello, Tamo-chan. Thank you. Thank you so much. Alpha Feet. Thank you. Then to continue, we have this augmenting workflows, then matching roles with common use cases, identifying the use for ChatGPT, establishing the framework, validating the use case, and now we're on to the ownership and privacy. So to continue with the ownership and privacy, let's watch first.
Discuss ownership and privacy in more detail. Ownership and privacy are two key considerations when scoping ChatGPT's suitability for a particular use case. Neglecting to consider these factors, especially for companies, can bring with it financial penalties, lawsuits, and damage to customer trust and brand image. We'll first discuss the response, as this is ultimately how value will be delivered to users. Establishing ownership over the response is crucial, especially if we intend on integrating ChatGPT into revenue-generating products. As stated in OpenAI's terms of use, providing that users comply with the terms, they can claim ownership to the output. This is great, but before we start celebrating, let's dig a little deeper into these terms. They can claim ownership to the output.
So it says here that subject to the compliance with these terms, OpenAI hereby assigns to you all its right, title, and interest in and to output. Right, title, and interest. So it says that assuming compliance, users can claim ownership. Users can claim ownership over the response.
This is great, but before we start celebrating, let's dig a little deeper into these terms. There are three key considerations. First, we cannot claim ownership over responses that are considered non-unique, as they can also be generated for other users. If we use a prompt with a small number of likely responses, such as asking factual questions or requesting very short pieces of text, we cannot claim ownership over the response. Second, we can't claim that responses from ChatGPT were human-generated. For products or tools built on top of ChatGPT, we'll need to ensure that customers aren't.
So, for the ownership and privacy, Says here that who owns the response. The responses that are not that are requested by and generated for other users are not considered your content. Then factual questions or generating small text snippets. Mhm. Cannot claim ownership. Okay. Then we may not we may not represent that output from the services was human generated when it is not.
Under the misapprehension that the generated content is human generated. Finally, ChatGPT can't be used to infringe on a person's rights, which includes copyright infringement. OpenAI update their terms fairly regularly, so be sure to double check them before giving the green light. Copyright prevents people from using intellectual property without prior consent from the owner. If AI-generated content bears similarity to content protected by copyright, we're at risk of receiving an infringement claim from the owner of the IP. Now let's discuss ownership over the prompt. As we might expect, OpenAI's terms state that the user owns the input as far as permitted by the law. Although this addresses ownership over the prompt, there are still some other considerations to be aware of. OpenAI are continuously developing ChatGPT to improve its performance, and one way this is being achieved is by analysing users' prompts and responses. If we're interacting with ChatGPT via the web page and don't want this data being used for performance improvements, we'll need to contact OpenAI to opt out of this usage agreement. Inputting sensitive data without the proper consent could risk breaching data governance laws, so it's always important to check the specific terms and applicable laws. Data governance laws govern how data and information can be collected, stored, and used to protect people's personal data. One of the biggest and most established data governance laws is GDPR, which governs data usage in EU countries. Data governance laws already place restrictions on how sensitive data can be used. So any use case for ChatGPT must not only satisfy OpenAI's terms of use, but must also adhere to the applicable data governance laws. Aside from the legalities of enabling a use case, we should also stop to consider the ethics. Data ethics is a field dedicated to ensuring that data is used with people and society's best interest in mind. Although this is a fairly loose definition and not legally binding, we should still ensure that enabling our use case won't adversely impact society, and desirably bring an overall positive impact. Grab your gavel, it's time to put your newfound legal and ethical understanding into practice.
Let's check it out. So, for OpenAI's terms of use, says here that it's possible to for users to claim ownership of responses generated by ChatGPT, providing they comply with the terms of use. So in this exercise, we'll test our knowledge of the sections of the terms of use relevant to ownership of the response. So in this exercise, we'll test our knowledge of the sections of the terms of use relevant to ownership of the response. So in this exercise, we'll test our knowledge of the sections of the terms of use relevant to ownership of the response. So in this exercise, we'll test our knowledge of the sections of the terms of use relevant to ownership of the response. So select the requirements from OpenAI's terms of use that users must comply with to be able to claim ownership over the response. So possible answer can't be represented as human generated. Can't be used to provide recommendations. Ito, can't infringe or violate someone's rights. Then must be considered unique. Must be verifiable by a human. Okay. So understanding ChatGPT's terms of use will allow us to identify concerns about enabling a use case while in the scoping stage, where the investment and associated risk is small. Okay. Then classifying concerns. An important part of scoping the suitability of ChatGPT to a particular use case is considering whether there are any initial legal or ethical concerns. Identifying these during the scoping phase is crucial to not only prevent wasted time in the development and implementation of the use case, but also negative repercussions from potentially breaching laws or infringing copyright. Mhm. So for the instructions, classify the following statements as ownership, privacy, or ethical concerns. The response resembles copyright protected content. Must be on the ownership copyright protected content. The response is not unique. The response is not unique. I'm not sure with this one. The response is represented as being human generated. Ownership, I think it's with the ethics. The use case is unfairly biasing people's thoughts and opinions. Privacy. Unfairly biasing people's thoughts and opinions. The use case is making bad recommendations for users. I think it's with the ethics. Sensitive customer data is being inputted. It's with the privacy. So the response is represented as being, so it's with the ownership. Okay, so it says here that recognizing legal and ethical concerns is a key step while scoping ChatGPT's suitability for a use case. Head on over to the next exercise to judge whether a use case can be enabled after considering the legal and ethical impact. Okay, so applying legal and ethical considerations. Just okay. So, in applying the legal and ethical considerations, we've been hired. Suppose that we've been hired as a new tech startup called Advertise AI. Advertise AI uses the latest generative AI models to create marketing content, which they then sell to their paying customers. So a new product called Pretty Catchy is in the design phase, which is planned to allow customers to generate catchy product names based on a description. As in the in-house ChatGPT expert, we've been consulted to see if it can be enabled. Okay, so can this use case be enabled in its current form? Select the response with the most accurate conclusion. For the possible answers, no, it is a risk of breaching data governance laws. Yes, as it satisfies the conditions set out in OpenAI's terms of use. Huh. Based on a description. One of the conditions in the terms of use can't be satisfied. So cannot be enabled because providing that the generated content can be considered unique. Mhm.
Awesome work getting this far. In this video, we'll discuss the exciting future of generative AI models, like ChatGPT, as well as some of the key hurdles to overcome. As with all technological advancements, we expect better performance with time. But let's define what we mean by better performance. Generative AI models produce content, so it's natural to compare what they can produce with what people can. We expect that generative AI models will produce content that much more closely resembles human-generated content. We also expect generative AI models to tackle more complex instructions and questions with greater reliability. So what will drive these improvements? Recall that ChatGPT and other text-generating AI models have a large language model at their heart. The LLM learns patterns and structure in language from being given a huge amount of text data to learn from, which we call training data. Algorithms then detect language patterns by looking at the frequency and order of words in the training data. And finally, the model is fine-tuned through iterative processes that involves rating the quality of responses. The amount of available training data will continue to increase, so models should develop a deeper understanding of language, including complex language expressions, such as sarcasm and idioms. Additionally, many generative AI models collect usage data, including user ratings of the generated content. This data allows developers to continue to fine-tune the model while it is live. Let's discuss a few hurdles related to these improvements. Although there will be more training data that models can learn from, a big challenge will be ensuring that the data is balanced and high quality. Due to the sheer quantity and unstructured nature of the training data, reducing bias before training the model is difficult. As generative AI begins to become an integral part of day-to-day life, more robust procedures to mitigate bias will need to be developed. As AI-generated content becomes more human-like, there'll be more opportunities for misuse, such as representing AI-generated content as human-generated, or using AI to create malicious content, such as spam emails. Because of the potential for misuse, we can expect governments and lawmakers to take a more active role in AI usage through regulatory measures, which could help or hinder advancements. As we've seen, ChatGPT is able to perform a very broad range of tasks, from generating marketing materials to writing and explaining code. In the future, we'll likely see the development of more specialized models that generate content within a narrower scope. An example of this would be a model specifically designed to generate code from a text description. More specialized models typically perform better than generalized models, as they're trained on the data most relevant to their application and fine-tuned to specific use cases. As well as text generation, generative AI models already exist to generate images, audio, and even video. These models operate under the same principles as ChatGPT, where training data is gathered and a set of algorithms detects the patterns to develop its understanding, which it uses to generate new content. ChatGPT has opened the door to the wide-scale adoption of generative AI, and a key factor in its success is accessibility. One crucial requirement to continue the adoption of generative AI is ensuring the democratization of AI tools, so everyone has access to the benefits of this amazing technology. Now for the final exercises.
Scaling the AI revolution. Generative AI is currently in its infancy. Over the coming years, it will increasingly superpower your workflows, influence the content you consume, and personalize products and services. So, to unlock the huge potential of generative AI, a few key limitations will need to be overcome. So, in this exercise, we'll have to investigate the advancements and challenges associated with scaling generative AI. So for the instructions, we have to classify the following statements as being advancements or challenges for the future of generative AI. More human-like responses. For the advancement. More specialized applications. It's human-like responses. I'm not sure, but preventing fraud and other misuse will be in the challenges. Building balanced training datasets. Greater model accuracy. Accessibility of AI tools. So greater model accuracy would be here and accessibility of AI tools. Greater model accuracy. Okay. So there's definitely a lot to look forward to with the advancements in generative AI, all of which will be beneficial to augmenting our workflows. With that, there are some interesting challenges to overcome, so don't expect AI to disappear from the headlines anytime soon. Mhm. More specialized models. So ChatGPT is generally, generalisa, genera, generalizable model, generalizable model that able to tackle all kinds of tasks and questions. With advancements in AI, it's likely that there will be a substantial increase in the number of generative AI applications out there, and these will likely be more specialized. So, which of the following statements about specialized generative AI models are true? For the possible answers, we're looking for the true uh, we're looking for the statement about specialized generative AI that are true. Specialized, specialized. So, although having more specialized models in the market will be less convenient to the end user, the added performance and capabilities will almost certainly make up for it. So, the generation is just another use case scenario. So, Totally Logo has hired us as a technical consultant on their exciting new project. Since they were founded, Totally Logo has been designing custom logos for its customers. which are created digitally by their team of specialist designers. They still want to offer this white glove service, but also want to provide some self-serve logos, which where customers can write a description of how they want their logo to look and feel, and a generative AI model will create one for them. So what type of generative AI would be required in this case? So since it's a logo, that's why I selected the image. So audio generation is being used heavily for text-to-speech tasks, such as generating narration from a script. Video generation is still in its infancy, but could eventually be used for compiling movie trailers or even generating entire scenes from a screenplay.
Congratulations! You've made it to the end of the course. In Chapter
Yay!
1, you learned the fundamentals of interacting with ChatGPT effectively. You learned about what ChatGPT can do, what some of its limitations are, and how to write prompts to maximize the quality of the response, so-called prompt engineering. In Chapter 2, you learned how businesses are using ChatGPT to augment their workflows to improve efficiency and value. You understand how to identify new appropriate use cases for ChatGPT using a framework of 4 key questions. You've investigated the legal and ethical considerations to regard prior to enabling a use case. Finally, you learned about the key factors that will determine the future success and widespread adoption of generative AI. I hope you enjoyed the course and now feel confident and prepared to begin superpowering yourself with ChatGPT.
So we're finished with the outline. We'll have to pick our next course. This is just a side course. I'm taking on the data analytics track, but each course there took about 4 hours for each lesson. So since I'm just taking this short course, Registry. So, for the let's see if there's another. Registry. Statistics. Let's see this. So let's just click on the intro on statistics.
Hi, and welcome. My name is George, and I'll be your host as we discover the core concepts of statistics. So, what is statistics? The field of statistics is the practice and study of collecting and analysing data. Statistics has two main branches. Descriptive or summary statistics are used to describe or summarise our data, while inferential statistics involve using samples to draw conclusions about the population they represent. We will discuss both in more detail, but first, let's look at why statistics is so important. We interact with statistics every day, from sports announcers talking about player statistics to tracking our personal finances. We are all in tune with statistics. Statistics allows us to answer practical questions, such as, what is the average salary in the USA? Or how many customer inquiries is a company likely to receive per week? It also has applications across society. We can use statistics to improve the safety of products, or to help a government understand the needs of a population. Scientific breakthroughs are validated through the use of statistics, including the conclusion that COVID-19 vaccines were 89% effective in preventing severe disease in older adults in the United Kingdom. So far so good, but statistics does have its limitations. Statistics requires specific, measurable questions, rather than broad, open questions. For example, statistics can tell us if rock music is more popular than jazz based on total sales, or whether women live longer than men. However, we can't use statistics to find out why relationships exist, such as why people like different types of music, or why women live longer than men. Now we know what statistics can and can't do, let's define the common data types, which is important for determining how we can analyze our data. First, we have numeric, or quantitative data. This can be broken into two subtypes. Continuous data is measured on a continuous scale, taking any value, such as stock price. We also have interval, or count data. These are measured in whole numbers, such as counting how many cups of coffee people drink per day. A common way of visualizing the relationship between numeric data is to use a scatter plot. Here, we have visualized the number of thefts in London, England, on the y-axis against the number of vehicle offences on the x-axis, where each dot represents a London borough and the amount of crime occurring determines the position. We see one borough has many more thefts than the rest, around 40,000 in total, but can't identify which borough this is. Another data type is categorical, or qualitative data. There are two subtypes. First is nominal data, which describes unordered categories such as eye color. The second categorical data type is ordinal data, where the categories are ordered. For example, a survey may ask people's opinion on whether basketball is the best sport, with answers ranging from strongly disagree to strongly agree. We can visualize the relationship between categorical and numeric data by grouping the values, then performing some kind of aggregation. We can group our crimes data by London Borough, which is nominal data, and display the number of thefts, which is interval data, for each borough. This is a great way to compare different categories. We can now see that Westminster is the borough with a high volume of theft. Now we've looked at data types and common ways to visualize them, let's return to the two main branches of statistics. Descriptive, or summary statistics, are used to describe or summarize data. Using our data on London crime as an example, we can describe that thefts in Westminster account for around 36% of all thefts in the 5 boroughs shown here. By contrast, inferential statistics is the process of using a sample to draw conclusions about a population. For example, we can survey 100 people on whether they purchase clothing after seeing social media advertising, and use this sample to infer what percentage of all people purchase clothing as a result of social media advertising. Now, let's check our understanding of statistics.
That was just an introduction. I think I have to continue again next time because I'm already sleepy. Thank you to Kamon Shan for accompanying me on this stream, and I think I'll just sleep then. I'll stream again tomorrow morning.